Hello teachers, magandang hapon po and welcome to our Saturday stream. So teachers, sana po we're all okay. Can you all send our greetings, our good afternoon in our chat right now so that I could also greet you, pero mainit at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, no. Napakainit po ngayon at na medyo talagang pumapasok na yung summer vibes natin, no. But again, I hope that you're all safe at home, okay? And kahit po medyo nagre-relax na po yung mga restrictions over the pandemic, sana po we're still taking precautions, okay? Pag lumalabas po tayo, no? Siyempre, ano yan, no? Isa sa mga reminders ko rin, no? Ako rin ngayon nag-explore na, we're getting out, we're exploring more, no? More and more places recently. But again, we're still making sure that we are safe, no? And of course, other people around us are safe. Okay. So before we begin, let's greet our teachers from the chat, no? As early as napakaaga po, no? Ng greetings natin from the chat, no? As early as 11:26 a.m. Nandito na po si Teacher Joseph Odelon Hermetanyo, of course. Okay. Si Teacher Patricia Ebon P. Katungal. Okay? And of course, Teacher Jeffrey Beltran is also here. Teacher Mirna Balasbas, Teacher Richard Sapico. Good afternoon, Teacher Pau. Ang fresh natin. Nakakahiya naman. Medyo labas muna ako. Mag-freshen up muna ako. Teacher Rizel Gabriel. Teacher Mary Grace Castillo. Okay? Teacher Franco Nicola Piado. Ako, napaka-avid viewer niya. No? Hindi nawawala. Kahit anong session. Teacher Mikey D. Leonardo, okay, Teacher Alex Javier Alvarez, Teacher Diane Gutierrez, Teacher Emmy Gumpal, Teacher Emmy. Is that a coincidence? Dalawang Emmy no magkasunod. Teacher Emmy Gonzalez, Teacher Roxanne Altea Fernandez, Teacher Glenda Aloran, Teacher Roxanne Altea Fernandez, Teacher Lorna Di Jose, well, handali lang, no? Background music tayo para hindi naman masyadong ano yung pag-greet natin sa mga teachers natin. Teacher Mia May Hibuyen, Teacher Merly Pelios, Teacher Marvin Francisco, Teacher JV Paul Tuazon, and Teacher Gemma Rivera. Teacher Pao, nakahabol ka ba or you could start anywhere?
I can start where
I
whichever
ended.
I see. Yan. Sige.
Okay,
Si
go ahead, Teacher
teacher,
Pao.
Miss Maria Gypsy Desquitado, good afternoon. Sir Romeo Dante Herones, Miss Jennifer Ortega, Miss Cecil Espiritu, Miss Maria Bernadette Magundayaw, Sir Besnold Baldo, Sir Dario Cortez, Miss Melody Torres. Yan, tinatanong kasi kung merong e-certificate daw after nito, Sir Franco. Oh, yes, definitely. This is a certificated event. Ayan. So, good afternoon din kay Teacher Richard Zafico, Teacher Florence Carino, Ma'am Christina Antonio, Mamia May Kibuyen, Ma'am Mary Jane Zapico Senizal, Sir George Barnaquea, Ma'am Diane Gutierrez, Ma'am Charmaine Joyce Tumakder from University of La Salette, Ma'am Lomalinda Flores from Nay Cavite, Ma'am Alisa May Barbosa, Sir Mark Anthony Esguerra, Ma'am Arlene Alberto, namiss ka namin. Parang di ko masyado nababasa parati si Ma'am Arlene. Okay, Ma'am
Diyan siya, ano
Rosabel.
lang, quiet lang.
Oo nga.
Oo.
Ma'am Rosabel, Ma'am Manlak, Ma'am Eden Aniversario, Ma'am Nathalie Folioso, Ma'am Angelina Carpio Reyes, and Ma'am Cynthia Coronacion of Babes SPED Center. Yan ang inabot ko, Sir Frank.
Yes, thank you. Si
Afternoon
Teacher
po.
Arlene, by the way, Teacher Pau, Teacher Arlene, dahil lang, no? Ano natin yung ating background music. Si Teacher Arlene, by the way, andyan lang siya, background lang. At dalawa na sila ngayon, okay? Last time, no, I read her comments, no? Dahil yung kanyang anak ay nasa studying education. Yan, magiging teacher din,
Wow!
soon to be teacher. Dalawa na sila ngayon. Tag team viewing na raw sila ngayon sa ano natin, sa mga sessions natin. I hope, Teacher Arlene, I hope that we get to prepare your daughter, no, to become a teacher. But again, with you as an example, definitely we're expecting a lot from your daughter as well. No? Kasi siyempre, magandang standard kasi at saka magandang example yung sineset ni Teacher Arlene sa kanyang anak. Yan. Maraming salamat, Teacher Pau, and good afternoon. Kumusta ka naman, Teacher Pau?
Ayun, alam mo na kung ba tayo fresh na fresh, no? Alam mo,
Yes.
yung ang Saturday nagiging chores day.
Yes,
Chores
totoo,
day.
totoo 'yan.
Oh.
Pero actually parang ano naman 'no, highlight lang yung Saturday pero araw-araw naman tayong nasa chores day talaga 'no. Teachers, kasambahay, halo-halo na yung mga roles natin sa ating mga bahay. And of course, alam ko pa Teacher Pao 'no, na busy ka din sa iyong mga doggies 'no, ang dami mong mga doggies na inaalagaan sa bahay mo. Anyway, Teacher Pao 'no, this session is really an exciting session 'no, okay? Well, personally kasi, okay, so that our speaker would also know, no, is that both Japan and Korea are two countries that I really, really admire. Okay, I have been to Korea. I haven't been to Japan, and that's actually the country we're targeting next year by of our family. No, so we hope that our speaker today is someone that we can meet no next year in Japan when we visit Japan. Okay, but we that's the reason, Teacher Pawai, I'm so excited. Plus, I really like to know exactly what happens in the educational system of Japan, because I have heard stories of really unique policies, such as, for example, as far as I know, no, our speaker today, no, will be able to confirm, but they do not do assessments on the early grades, if I'm not mistaken, because they do emphasis on values first, okay, developing the whole child first, okay, not like like throwing them into the pit of assessments already. And I think that goes as far as grade 2 or grade 3. I'm not really sure, but it's really one of the foundational aspect of Japanese education. And I've heard one more thing, Teacher Pao. If I'm not mistaken, they also don't do honor system. That's something that they have to also confirm, no? And to some extent, no, I don't know what level it actually comes in, but that's also one thing that they promote, no, not like encouraging students, okay, to focus on awards and medals like that, okay. Anyway, you, Teacher Pao, okay, I know that you're also excited. What makes you excited in this session?
All right. So basically, this is well, Japan is known for it. Ako nakikita ko kasi mga videos, mga ganon. But I'm really not immersed into the education system of Japan kasi usually nakikita natin mga Finland or Singapore, lalo na kung dito sa bandang Asia, no. It's more of Singapore ang medyo trending sa atin. But what I really would want to know is how they really progress, no? Because Japan, as we have seen, Japan is already a superpower in terms of engineering, mathematics, sciences. So I'm as a math teacher, I'm really excited how they actually do it in Japan and how they manage to do all of this if they don't start assessments at the lower grades, no? Kasi nakikita natin before, I saw one video of students cleaning the room. That's part of their curriculum. Diba? So, how? How in the world will you squeeze that when you know that there's a lot of topics, and I know in the Philippines that's quite a challenge for us, no, how to finish the content. But Japan was able to actually do something about it. So I'm really excited to know more
Yes.
about how Japan does it.
Yes. And we know it works, Teacher Pao, no? Given what Japan has been able to achieve so far, no, we know that their educational system actually works, and that's
Yeah.
what's interesting about this session. And plus, Teacher Pao, later, something that we can also ask our speaker for today is that how do Japanese educational system also squeeze the idea of culture, because we know how well preserved the Japanese culture is in Japan, and is that one thing that something that the educational system also tries to prioritize. That's what we also want to find out in today's session. Okay, so let's not anymore prolong our introduction. No, it's actually prolonged already. Anyway, we'd like to introduce already our speaker, Teacher Pau. Would
Yes,
you do the honor of introducing
sure.
our speaker for today?
All right. So our speaker for today is Teru Murakami. He's a master's student at Waseda University. His major is American Literature. He has been a J tutor at Waseda University Writing Center since 2020. After working for more than 3 years at an English conversation school, he is going to be a high school teacher at Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan from next April. Dear Kaagapay viewers, let us all welcome Teru Murakami.
Hello, teachers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sir
Good
Teru.
afternoon. I'm
Hello,
Teru.
Murakami-san. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Philippines, although virtually. Well, we hope that we can welcome you here face to face next time. But thank you so much,
Yeah.
Murakami-san, for granting our request for this afternoon. Okay. And before we have your session, Murakami-san, may we just have like a short overview of what we'll be talking about in our session for today? What will be the coverage for today's session?
Okay. So, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me today. I'm so honored to be here today. What I'm gonna cover today is first, Japanese basic educational system and also trends. What's happening in Japan currently, and also the best practices. And here, I'd like to introduce you the most important idea in the course of study, which is the standards of education in Japan. And I'd like to talk a bit about innovation. And Giga School program, which is one of the which ensures students to have one device for each student, one device. So I'm going to talk about that later, and also hopefully I will cover what Sir Franco said. Thank you for the kind introduction as well. That's what I'm gonna cover. So
Thank Thank you, Murakami-san, and we are excited. Teacher Pao, are you excited with that
Yes,
coverage? So much to
definitely.
learn. Yes. Okay. While Murakami-san is preparing his presentation, teachers, please be reminded that this is a certified session. You'll be getting a certificate after the session, but please make sure to answer the evaluation at the end of the session. By the way, while we're waiting for Murakami-san's presentation, Teacher Pao, I'd also like to do a shout out to to Miss Jaja Bariga, my classmate in Ateneo, the friend of Murakami-san, who actually made the introduction. So we were able to contact Murakami-san through Miss Jaja. Okay, so I know that she's watching me right now, so I know that she's watching. So thank you so much again, Miss Jaja. Okay, so Murakami-san, we're ready for your
yes,
presentation. Teachers,
yes,
Murakami-san, good luck. Teachers, enjoy our session. We'll be in the chat. We'll be engaging you, talking with you. So let's talk in the chat while Murakami-san is also discussing.
okay. So let me start my presentation. Um, all right. So now I start my sharing, and okay. Okay, can you see my slide now?
Yes,
Okay.
Murakami-san, your slide is on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So now I start my presentation. The topic is education. The title is Education in Japan, Trends, Best Practices, and Innovations. And contents are like this. So there are 5 parts: introduction, trends, best practices, innovations, and conclusion. So let me start with first from introduction. So in introduction, I'm gonna introduce you the basic educational system of Japan. And first, let me introduce myself. My name is Ken Murakami. I'm an English learner, so I study English as a second language. Um, and I'm a graduate student at Waseda University, and I'm majoring in American literature, and I'm a tutor at Waseda University Writing Center. And I'd like to say thank you for an English teacher, Miss Jaja, to invite me and introduce me um, to this such a valuable opportunity. So I'm very honored to be able to speak in front of you today. And I'm a J staff at an English conversation school, and I will be a high school teacher from next April. Okay, so this is a picture of Waseda University, located in Tokyo. And this man, do you know this man? The name? Have you seen this picture? His name is Haruki Murakami, one of the most prominent writers in Japan, and he is the author of such novels like Norwegian Wood and Ichikyu 84. So I'm glad that I can study at the same university as he studied. Yeah, and I was born in Kanagawa Prefecture here, and now I'm here in Kanagawa Prefecture, which is located below Tokyo. And Japan is here, and the Philippines are here. So the distance is about 3,000 kilometers. So it's simply amazing that we can share ideas in even we are in such a long distance. Yeah. So firstly, I'd like to ask you a question. What kind of thing do you know about Japan? What do you think of when you hear the word Japan? And I think some of you think of foods. So, there are quite a lot of famous foods, like famous Japanese foods like sushi, yakisoba, sukiyaki, yakitori, and so on. So I like some of these. And maybe some teachers would think of nature. So there are a lot of world heritages, natural world heritages in Japan. And also maybe some people would think of sports. So there are many kinds of traditional sports in Japan. And also last year, 2020 Tokyo Olympics was held, right? So do you remember that? So maybe some people would think of that. And also Japan is the third largest economy in the world. So maybe some people would think of that. And also society or political thing, and maybe technology. But how about education in Japan? So in this presentation, I will talk about the good points and also some bad points about education in Japan. So please think about that, and also I hope you to find something that are applicable to your situations. All right. So let me start with a simple image of the system of education in Japan. So the foremost important thing is constitution, Japanese constitution. And under this constitution is mixed, the government. And the government determines the courses of study, which is called Gakushu Shido Yoryo in Japanese. And boards of education, Kyoiku Inkai. And boards of education manage public schools. And not only public schools, but also there are private schools. And public schools have a lot of connection with the courses of study. On the other hand, private schools are free compared to public schools, right? So let me start with Constitution. Here is a quotation of the Constitution of Japan, Article 26. So there are these three important statements. The first one, all people shall have the right to receive an equal education correspondent to their ability as provided by law. So education is part of basic rights. So it's quite important. It's thought to be quite important in Japanese society. And all people shall be obligated to have all boys and girls under their protection receive ordinary education as provided for by law. So having children under our protection receive ordinary education is one of the obligations. So there are three obligations for Japanese people. Like the first one is to work, the second one pay taxes, and the third one is this. So um, so you can see how education is thought to be important in Japan, and such compulsory education shall be free. So next, let me talk about next the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. This is one of the 11 ministries, part of the executive branch of the government of Japan, and it determines course of study. All right, and the courses of study, I mean, 学習指導要領, is the are broad standards for all schools from kindergarten to upper secondary schools and are revised once every 10 years. And the newest one was announced in 2016, which I will talk in the part best practices. Okay, so next, boards of education, which are positioned under next, manage public schools. And there are two kinds of boards of education, prefectural boards of education, municipal boards of education. And they recruit new teachers. So those teachers who want to work at public schools have to take examinations and interviews and hold some mock classes. All right. Next, let me talk about private schools and public schools. So first, let me begin with school system. Japanese children, before entering elementary school, go to kindergarten or nursery school. But after that, they go to elementary school for 6 years and junior high school for 3 years. And these are compulsory education. So, and these are free. And after graduating from junior high school, most students choose to go to high school. But and in order to get in high school, students need to take entrance examination, which sometimes are very hard. And so a lot of students go to Juku. But all right, in elementary school, students, especially from grade 1 to 4, they don't have to take like serious test, as Sir Franco said. So and also, so rather than assessing the test scores, what is important in elementary school is to let them cultivate humanity, and also let them improve their manners. So yeah. And after entering high school and spending 3 years there, some students choose to go to university or colleges and special schools. And for that purpose, students also need to take entrance examination, which can be harder than the entrance examination for high schools. So students go to cram school again, which is called Yobiko. So the primary education are mainly centered on cultivating humanity, but after that, secondary education and higher education are aimed at letting improve their skills. So this is, I think, one of the features of education in Japan. And after graduating from university, some students like me choose to go to graduate school. Okay. Next, let me speak about talk about public school, the differences between public schools and private schools. So as I said, public schools are managed by boards of education, and on the other hand, private schools are independent of boards of education. So students who want to study at private schools need to pay tuitions, but they can receive some more free and special education at private schools, because private schools are more are freer compared to public schools in terms of the courses of study. All right. So next, I'd like to talk about elementary school, junior high school, and high school. So let's see how is like in schools in Japan. Okay. Um, students age from 6 to 12 go to elementary school, and this is a part of compulsory education, as I said. And one class lasts about 45 to 50 minutes, and there are 4 to 6 classes in one day. And there are a lot of subjects um, in elementary school. So there are 10 subjects: Japanese, math, science, social studies, living environment studies, music, art and handcraft, home economics, and health and PE, and foreign language. So in addition to these 10 basic subjects, there are 4 other special subjects like foreign language activities, ethics or moral education, integrated studies, and special abilities activities. So there are 14 subjects. And these 2 subjects, foreign language activities and foreign language, are quite important because after the newest revision of the courses of study, foreign language came to be one of the subjects. Before that, foreign language was just foreign language activities, which is foreign language activities are subject for grade 3 and 4, but for grade 5 and 6, foreign language is part of these other 9 important subjects. So this is, I think, this shows how English education is thought to be important in today's Japanese society. All right, so this is the schedule, example of schedule. So the classes basically starts 8:45 and it ends 15 o'clock, so 3 o'clock, right? All right, so these are the pictures of elementary school. And next, let me talk about junior high school. So students age 12 to 15 go junior high school, and this is also part of compulsory education. And the point is that there are a lot of club activities in junior high school. So the subjects are these, like these, so 9 subjects and 3 special subjects. And the club activities are like these. So soccer, baseball, basketball, dancing, tennis, ping pong, track and field, badminton, swimming, and kendo. So these sort of sports activities, and also there are other culture club activities like brass band, literature, English, writing, and tea, and painting, arts. Okay, so next let me talk about high school. This is not a part of compulsory education. So students from 15 age from 15 to 18 go, and there are also a lot of club activities, but the subjects are more complex and difficult compared to junior high school. So these are just simple categories, but for example, Japanese language, there are more other subjects like contemporary Japanese classics, Chinese classics, and so on. So this is just a simple category, but and about club activities, basically same. The kinds are same. So, but in high school, usually there is popular music club, which I belonged to when I was a high school student. So this may be a difference. Okay, so please keep in mind this image. So this is the basic, image of the education in Japan. Okay, so next, let's move on to trends. So in thinking of trends, I think there are three important things. The first one, innovation. The second one, globalization, and SDGs, which are said to be the ideal or the goals that we contemporary humans need to achieve in the future. And so, in connection with these three um, key things, there are other important kinds of factors of trends, like, for example, COVID-19, I think, has happened because of globalization. So if the world hasn't globalized like recent days, this pandemic hasn't happened, I think. And in response to COVID situation, the government started a Giga School program, which I mentioned earlier. And so I will explain more later about Giga School program. And the government also thinks it's important to promote programming education, which lets students, improve the ability to think logically, and are also in connection with SDGs. I'd like to talk about work style reform. Um, okay, and as I mentioned earlier, um, the English education has been changed, especially in elementary school. So there are some reforms of an English education, which has something to do with globalization. Okay, and are reflecting these trends, courses of study were revised. So um, today, let me talk mainly about these two things: new courses of study and work style reform. So first, what is work style reform? Work style reform is a reform that allows people to choose a various and flexible work style that suits their circumstances. And this reform is not limited in the field of education, but also all over the country. Any workplace, like from company, yeah, and other public workplaces. And to promote this reform, the government takes measures to help end the practice of long working hours, allow for flexible and diverse work styles, and ensure that all workers receive fair treatment, etc. But why is work style reform important? Let's think about that. Japanese teachers actually work longest hours among OECD economies. So please take a look at this chart. Um, this chart, which I made based on PALIS 2013, shows that teachers in Japan work longest among OECD economies. So, sorry, I actually couldn't find the figures of Philippines, so I couldn't put it in here. But um, maybe you can see by comparing the total working hours of Japan and average. You can see how teachers in Japan work long. And next, as a result of this, the number of applicants for the job is decreasing. In 2020, the total number of applicants is 138,042, which is smaller than the previous year by 10,423. So the total number of applicants, and here applicants, I mean the applicants of Kyoin Sayo Shiken, which is the examination to be a public teacher. All right. Then why are Japanese teachers so busy? I think there are three kinds of teachers' works. First, teaching. Two, second, student counseling, and third, school management. And there are also a lot of additional related tasks. For example, club activities, cleaning, answering questionnaires, contacting regional volunteers, supporting students commuting, petrol, etc. So, as I said, there are quite a lot of club activities in junior high schools and high schools. So teachers need to be like coaches and instructors. So actually, these tasks can be stressful. So yeah, so this is the present situation. Then how can we reduce teachers' overwork? So um, we should think of this question based on these two ideas, two viewpoints. Who should do the work, and what can be done to reduce stress? Okay, by thinking about this question from these points, let us clarify teachers' works and have other staff, if needed, help teachers. Okay, so the basic or the general idea of reducing teachers' overwork is like this chart shows. So there are three types of the works that teachers doing now, and so the first category, the works basically schools don't have to do. There are four examples, like supporting students commuting, petrol after school and at night, financial management, contacting regional volunteer staff. And the second category, the works that teachers don't need to do, though they are to be done at schools, answering questionnaires or investigation, especially by the government, students counseling during less time, cleaning, club activities. So and the works that are needed to be done by teachers but can be reduced. Eating lunch with students, preparation for classes, assessment, school events, career counseling, supporting students who need support. All right. So I think work style reform, especially in the field of education, is quite important in thinking of sustainable development goals, SDGs. This is because I've seen in some TV news that teachers choose to commit suicide because of the overwork. So the situation is serious, I think. So the goal, especially this has something to do with goal 8, decent work and economic growth. So this is a thing that we as Japanese need to think about. Okay, the next thing that I like to share with you in terms of trends is the new course of study. Course of study, as I said, one of the central parts of the system of education in Japan. And the courses of study are the broad standards for all schools from kindergarten to upper secondary schools. Okay. And so the background of this newest division is, like as I said, the trends is changing. So because of these elements like innovations and globalizations, and also the goals like SDGs, the future in today's world becoming more and more unpredictable. And the word I put here, society 5.0, is a special word that the government is thinking of that will realize in recent years. So society 5.0 is a word that society where cyberspace and this material real space, or how can I say the real world are mixing together. So which will be caused by innovations. And so let's take a bit look at general provisions, which I quoted from new course of study. So the point is the part that I highlighted. So let me read this quotation. In providing educational activities, each school should create specifically tailored educational activities by making use of originality and ingenuity through class improvements for realization of proactive, interactive, and authentic learning as shown in third one, and aim to realize the matters listed in the following 1 to 3 in order to foster competencies for living in students. Okay, so this word proactive, interactive, authentic learning is the most important idea that I would like to show with you today. So please be reminded this idea. Okay. So there are three objectives of a new course of study. One, ensure that knowledge and skills are acquired. Two, develop the students' abilities to think, make judgments, and express themselves. And three, cultivate students' humanity, 人間性, and their motivation to learn. um, actually, in making this presentation slides, the e-tutor from Waseda University Lighting Center helped me a lot, and she kindly offered to check these slides, these whole slides, and we did a sort of EJ session like we do at lighting centers, and she told me that the translation of cultivate humanity in Japanese, 人間性の寛容 is a bit tricky term. So she kindly told me that this word in Tagalog can tell you tell you teachers in the Philippines this idea. So pagiging mabuting tao. Okay, so the idea is how can we let students be a better person. Okay. So there are three important parts: the motivation to learn, humanity, and knowledge and skills, and the abilities to think, make judgments, and express themselves. These are what to be able to do. 何ができるようになるか. And not only these things or what to be able to do, we need to think about what to learn, 何を学ぶか, and how to learn, どう学ぶか. And about what to learn, as I said, foreign language was made to be subject in primary education. So this is the changes. This is one of the changes. And also the new subject public started in higher education. And about how to learn, the most important idea is this: proactive, interactive, and authentic learning. So let me explain a bit about this. In other words, this is called active learning. And according to a document, the definition of active learning is like this: a general term of teaching and learning method which introduces learners' active participation in learning, unlike the unidirectional teacher-to-student lecture style education. Okay. So this idea, proactive, interactive, authentic learning, is the main thing I'd like to share with you. But also, please keep in mind that these three things, like what to be able to do, what to learn, and how to learn, are thought to be important. And among what to be able to do are the motivation to learn, humanity, knowledge and skills, and the abilities to think, make judgments, and express themselves. Okay, so let's move on to best practices. Here, this idea, proactive, interactive, authentic learning, comes to be the most important thing. And let me explain the background of this idea. So, what do you think about this picture? A teacher standing in front of students and teaching something. Yes, I think this kind of strategy or method to teach is common all over the world, especially in Japan. So this way of teaching is still one of the most common methods that's taken in many schools. And this is called chalk and talk style. And teachers teach and students are taught. So they are not necessarily actively learning in this style. So this is the point. So although this style probably have a lot of benefits, like right, like in this style, students can learn the basics early, but this style is thought to be um, problematic in recent days. This is because this is like unidirectional, and it makes students passive learners. What are passive learners? Um, Passive learners can be less active. Passive learners are less likely to connect what they learn with their careers or daily lives, and passive learners will have less interest in their subjects. This is because in the choke and talk style, teachers teach. So the subjects is the teachers, not students. So this lead to um, make students passive learners, and passive learners are less likely to be higher achievers because they can't learn subjects as their own things. Okay, so not like such Chokan talk style. What are promoted in recent education in Japan is like this image. So here you see students are talking actively, and teachers just watching them. So in this image, teacher plays the role of facilitator, and in other picture you see students teach other students. So student as a teacher, and also you see here there are two pictures. These are individual supports. So these help students be active learners. So what is this idea, active learners? Active learners are active to learn, having interest in subjects, and they can connect what they learn with their careers or daily lives, and they can understand what they learn deeply with clear outlook. So consequently, they are more likely to be higher achievers than passive learners. Okay, so I think that is because students can learn subjects as their own thing. Okay, so the image is like this. In the conventional style, teachers in front of students teach, and but nowadays, what is thought to be important to is that teacher get in these connections among students and be as one of them, a part of them. They are learning and grow together. So, all right. Next, let me talk about the definitions of proactive learning. Um, According to one document, proactive learning is learning in which students can connect the contents by reviewing the lessons, have interest in the later contents with their career directions, and be eager to learn with clear outlook. So, there are 4 points. Proactive learning is learning in which students can connect the contents by reviewing the lessons. So, reviewing, reflection is quite important, and have interest in learning. So, not being forced to learn by teachers, and relate the contents with their career directions, and be eager to learn with clear outlook. So, that they know, so it is important that they know what they are learning with clear outlook. Okay. So, in order to connect what they are learning with other things. So the example is like this. So even um, um, uh, this so in PE, for example, when students um, uh, uh, so students in the class of swimming, by letting students have their own goal and letting them to think how they can achieve their own goal. Um, uh, students can learn swimming proactively. So by letting them to check the distance, the speed, and form. So the idea is that to think and to to struggle to achieve their own goal is the quite important thing. Not just teacher, um, um, uh, not just dealing with the tasks that teachers assign them. Okay, next, let me talk about interactive learning. Um, Interactive learning is learning in which students deepen and widen their thoughts through teamwork with classmates, dialogues with teachers and community staffs, and through the thoughts of other wise people, which include thinkers, philosophers, and the writers of classics. So not only uh, people that they can meet face to face, they can uh, they can learn from the thoughts of other wise people. So this is, I think, one of the most important thing. Okay. And the example of interactive learning is like this. So in the science class, um, for instance, when students learn about where salt goes after water dissolving it, um, let students examine in various ways, such as evaporating the water, measuring the weight, and sharing the results in groups. Okay, so here having students to think of hypotheses and comparing the results that they found out, and also leading such ideas to discussion is a quite important thing. So this makes students think in groups, and which makes it possible to learn interactively. And next, let me talk about authentic learning. This is learning in which students deepen their understanding of subjects by constellating what they learned, form their ideas in checking information closely, find problems and solutions, and create something based on their thoughts while taking views, ways to think that correspond to the qualities of each subject in the course of acquiring, using, and seeking knowledge. Okay, so there are these points. Authentic learning is a learning in which students deepen their understanding of subjects by constellating what they learn. So having connection is important, and form their ideas by checking information closely and find problems and solutions and create something based on their thoughts while taking views, ways to think that correspond to the qualities of each subject in the course of acquiring, using, and seeking knowledge. Okay, so let me introduce the example of authentic learning. Sorry. So let's say, for example, in the class of history, um, uh, students can learn some historical events like the arrival of guns in Japan in the 16th century, and in learning such events, um, the important thing is to let students think of why and how the gun spread in short period. So it is good that to let them think about that in groups, and also let them think by themselves, and not just teaching the facts, historical facts, or the only truth, but rather important thing is to is a is that they constellate their knowledge that they learned before, like about the political situation in the 15th century in Japan, and also in the world. So this sort of thing. And also today, there are quite a lot of materials that can be used on the internet. So um, so by with these um, uh, materials and also devices, students can learn much more, much deeper things, rather than just superficial knowledge that written in textbook. Okay, so next, let me talk about my own original lesson plans. Um, so I prepared two lessons. So the first one is about the speech. What do you want is a lesson entitled Speech. What do you want to do in this high school? And the second one, listen to leading. What I want to be in the future is blah, blah, blah. Okay. So please be reminded that these lesson examples are just my creation. So I'm still a student, so I haven't got the chance uh, to um, to introduce this to the Leo situation. So okay, so this is just something that I want to share for letting you to have the image of what education in English education in high school in Japan is like. So okay. So the objective of this lesson is to have the students write a script and make a speech on the topic, what do you want to do in this high school? And there are 7 parts. So this is the overview of the class. First, write 5 to 10 sentence scripts on the topic in 10 minutes. 2, check the scripts in pairs in terms of vocabulary and grammar in 4 minutes. And 3, read the script and give feedback in pairs for 6 minutes. And make a speech in groups of 4 students, 10 minutes. And give feedback and discussions in groups, 6 minutes. Choose the best speech in each group, 14 minutes, and listen to the best speeches of other groups for 12 minutes. The point in this lesson is the interaction. Also, the point is that students have some tasks that they need to do by themselves. So not only peer works and group works, but also they need something that they can do by themselves. So this is a point. And the second lesson, reading, the 2 objectives are as follows: to read and comprehend the text, to talk about what oneself wants to be in the future. And there are 7 points, 7 parts of this lesson. First, listen to the teacher's reading of the text for 5 minutes. And 2, second, read silently and comprehend the text for 6 minutes. And third, read the text aloud in pairs for 4 minutes and think of the questions of the text by oneself for 10 minutes. And fifth, check the answers in pairs for 5 minutes and understand the grammatical form. The new grammatical form is what, subject and verb. 3 minutes for 3 minutes, and talk about what oneself wants to be in the future using the new expression for 12 minutes. All right. So this is the example of the text. This is a text that I wrote because I couldn't quote the textbook in terms of copyright. So this is what I wrote. So so this is just an example. Okay. So the point is that some grammatical forms are used in the text, and also there should be some words, some new words, new vocabulary. Okay, so the examples of questions are like this. So students are to put some words for the blank A and blank B. 1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, however, consequently, what is more, and other things. And there are 6 questions about the contents of the text. So the point is that students have some chances to talk and use the new grammatical using the new grammatical forms. So the part 7, talk about what oneself wants to be in the future using the new expression, is a point. Okay. So, but there are some criticism for this proactive, interactive, and authentic learning. So some people say it's idealistic but not realistic um, in thinking of the real situations um, that students need to deal with. And um, there are other criticism like teaching in this way cannot cover the basics enough. And also some people say this don't really help students prepare for the examinations because they just um, um, uh, because they can't learn the basic enough in group works or pair works. And also, it is thinkable that assessment uh, is not good. Um, the present style of assessing is not good in order to introduce this learning. Okay. Then, what is the best way to learn? Let's think about this. Mm, what I will talk here is only my idea, but it's possible that we learn in group and we can learn many things inspired by others and they grow and we grow. We can grow, but um, recently um, there are a lot of ways that we can learn. So, for example, the internet and also writing and reading, listening to radios, or even watching TVs and uh, using smartphone applications can lead us to learn better. But and also um, we can learn something by thinking by ourselves. Even that's possible. So the important thing is, I think, to balance um, learning by ourselves and also learning in groups. So I think solitude and society are equally important. So the image is like this. So presently, the entrance examinations are quite hard. So students need to study hard after they get in junior high schools and high schools. So that actually have some benefits, I think. Okay, and the most important thing is, I think, motivation of the individual is a crucial thing because um, learning without motivation does not lead student anywhere. So the point is not what we do, but how we do it. So we can learn only by thinking, I think, and leading and using computers and so on. So there are quite a lot of methods. So the point is um, how we do it, not what we do. With motivation, do it with motivation or not is the point, I think. So next, let me talk about innovations. All right. So on the one hand, we have education, and on the other side, we have technology. How can we um, combine these? What is the best mix of education and technology? Let's think about this question. So, as I talked in the part trends, GIGA School program is promoted or is progressing in Japan right now. And then let me talk a bit about GIGA School program. GIGA School program ensures one device for one student with a high-speed network in schools, which bring optimized and creative learning to all students who will live in the society 5.0. Okay, so next. And GIGA School program realizes an educational ICT environment optimized for each of the various children including those with special needs, and ensures further development of their abilities. And it maximizes the power of teachers and students through the best mix of past educational practices and cutting-edge ICT technology. So the image of Giga School program, according to one document, is like this. So uh, there are past practices, and by mixing such past practices with ICT, the new ICT technology, um, we can lead further enrichment of learning activities, uh, improvement of lessons from the perspective of proactive, interactive, and authentic learning. Okay, so this is the basic idea of GigaSchool program. But so currently, the introduction of one device for one student is um, um, currently it's this GigaSchool program um, is um, is progressing. But how can we use ICT technologies? What's the best mix of education and technology? So this is a question I'd like to think about. Well, I think there are four important aspects of ICT: connectivity, efficiency, preciseness, and authenticity. So these four aspects are the possibilities of ICT, I think. And I think we can use ICT in these two ways, for management and for teaching. And about management, we can use ICT in health check and attendance check, and also analyzing some data, so like the scores of tests and so on. And in teaching, we can use ICT for online lessons and giving online tasks or homeworks for students. And we can use it for announcement, right? So first, let me talk a bit about management in terms of efficiency and preciseness. So we can use some tools like Google Forms, like this, for students' health check in this COVID situation, and also questionnaires. Questionnaires are thought to be quite important to in education in Japan. So also this kind of by through these digitalized questionnaires and health check, we can save papers. Okay. I'd like to talk a bit about a PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, action. This cycle is quite important to improve our teaching. Okay, so conventionally, I think teachers did something like this. So just planning and doing. And this, I think, doesn't really help students or improve the classes. Rather, what we need to do is check and action. So after planning and doing, we should check and action. So Japanese teachers need to write teaching plans before every classes, but after that, after the classes, we need to check and improve it. So this is the PDCA cycle. Next, let me talk a bit about the ways that we can use ICT in teaching in terms of connectivity and authenticity. So there are a lot of ways that we can create interactive workspace, like using Zoom or Google Jamboard or Skype. So with these, we can um, we can let students learn interactively. So these are just examples. Um, like we can use Google Jamboard or um, the whiteboard of Zoom and Google Documents. So um, so the point in this interactive workspace is that not unlike the conventional teaching style, which with teachers in front of the students write something on blackboard, which students cannot light in. But for students, it comes to be very much easier to write in. So with these devices. So whiteboard and Google Jamboard and Google Documents and so on. And also these can be used for peer reviews. So by lighting in um, some English sentences on Google Documents, students can share it and checking it. All right. And so the point is that um, students can be in different places and still they can share these workspace spaces. And even it's possible that students in different countries are connected with interactive spaces. So this is quite good in terms of English education. And for assignment and announcement, ICT can be used. So like Google Classroom using Google Classroom. Okay. And now I'm making this presentation using PowerPoint. PowerPoint, I think, is quite good tool to show authentic materials like these pictures. So when students studying about some historical events, teachers can let them see these pictures. And also, students themselves can search many things nowadays, and they can get the information from all over the world. And also, students can use something like Google Map for learning geography. And in English education, even it's possible to use Google Translation for checking the pronunciation. So actually, the words from Tagalog, um, uh, which I mentioned earlier in this presentation, I checked the pronunciation with Google Translation. So I thought that Google Translation actually can be used for learning as well. So anything can be used for learning. Okay, next we can use some voice input like for especially for education of language. So by using Google Document, so if students pronunciation is correct, they can put in some words, the correct words in Google Documents. So for Japanese English learners, the pronunciation is really difficult. So so I myself tried this way of learning, and I found it quite helpful. And also we can use even like this application, so voice recorder. So this can show students the visual image of their pronunciation. Like so, in these pictures, the left one is a model reading, and so you see there are two accents. On the middle one has only one accent, and the left one, the right one there's no um, the accent is not uh, can't be found in the right place. So this lets students learn pronunciation visually, and also we can use some applications like Silly or the voice um, leading aloud service function, because this is, I think, quite important, because students who have learning disabilities can learn with these. So, but there are also some problems in innovations, I think. So, because some students are addicted to SNS or online games, which are very serious, which is very serious problems, because this just comes to be the distraction, and also this leads to some problems like cyberbullying, and students feel much more loneliness than without uh, these devices. So we need to be careful about these problems. So what is important is to um, let them know the wiser way, or the more light way to announce the correct way to use these devices, and also check the results. And for parents, they have a responsibility to teach children, um, and also students and we users ourselves should think of what is the wisest way or wiser way to use these tools. So if we do these, I think education and technology can be mixed, and these have possibilities, I think. Okay, so let me move on to conclusion. In this presentation, I talked about the basic framework or the basic system of education in Japan, and also um, I talked a bit about my ideas on the trends. And third, um, in the best practices part, I introduce you the proactive, interactive, authentic learning. Um, and in the part innovations, I talked about the pros and cons of ICT in terms of efficiency, preciseness, connectivity, and authenticity. Okay, so the last thing I want to say is about learning teacher. So um, 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 learning teacher, being a learning teacher is thought to be one of the most important quality for good teacher of a good teacher in the future. So the point is we keep learning. This is the last thing, and also I need to keep this idea in mind for, for myself, because I will be a high school teacher from next April. So these are the differences. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Sir Teru. So teachers, please give your questions, drop them down, and we will attend to your questions shortly. Okay. So, Sir Tero, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing to us what the education system is in Japan. Our teachers have actually seen that there are lesser subjects in a day, I think, compared to here in the Philippines. And thank you also for sharing a sample schedule so we can really clearly see a picture, no, of how a day in Japan for kids are. Okay, so I'll just start with one of the questions, Sir Franco, maybe. There, the most recent one, Ma'am Rowena Contapay. For Murakami-san, what motivated you to become a teacher? Given all that you've mentioned, especially the trends I think nowadays in Japan.
Yes. So what motivated me to become a teacher? The first thing is that I like English very much. I like studying English, and also um, um, I have this idea that um, I I like to do the best thing that I can do for people and for myself. And after thinking about that, um, being a teacher is the um, best choice that I can choose. So, so this is the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank
you
you.
were actually driven about what you wanted to do after, and that's very nice of you, Sir Franco.
Yes, no, agree with Miss Jaja Bariga. Awesome, you'll be a wonderful teacher, Murakami-san. Yes, I agree with that. No, definitely. With the presentation of Murakami-san and of course his answer, being service oriented, will definitely make him a really good teacher. Okay. There's another question from the chat. This one is from teacher Melody Torres. Okay. What are challenges in Japanese educational system? What are the current challenges that you're facing right now?
Um, there are current changes, as I think, the uh, about this program I introduced, like Giga School program. The situation, the on the one hand, the government's promoting the program, but the some of teachers say that um, the government really don't understand what's happening in the real situation in schools, so they can't really understand how they can uh, maximize the the use of devices. So how they don't know how they can use efficiently or effectively. So I think this connection between the central government and the real situation, the schools, is really important. So this is one of the challenges in Japanese educational system. So connecting the government and schools.
Okay. Teacher Pao, even in the Philippines, it's also one of the challenges here in the Philippines. Some of the programs implemented by the government does not always fit with what's actually needed or what's happening on the ground, especially with it. That's why consultations maybe no Teacher Pao and Murakami-san with teachers will always be an important policy making factor every time we do that. No, don't worry, teachers. If I become president, teachers will always be consulted. Yes. Well, let's wait for that. Let's wait for that time. Okay. This one is from teacher Mary Ann Porzuelo. I
Okay.
go ahead, teacher Pau.
Okay, I teach grades 1 to 3 students, so I am very interested in Japan's no assessment style for these grade levels. How do you evaluate the students who are doing poorly on the core subjects?
Um, yeah. So uh, maybe I'd like to say a word here. So I didn't really express well, so because I'm not the first I don't speak English as a first language. So, but actually, the in terms of assessment, I need to say a word. Of course, we don't do assessment for the score or evaluate them, but actually we have some how to say the grades or the we don't assess, but we write some comments for their achievement in schools, and um, we don't have tests for kids like grade 1 to grade 4, but we have some comments or seiseki in Japanese, but I don't know how to explain it in English. I'm sorry, but yeah. So
It's okay,
it's
Murakami-san. I think
okay.
we get the point, no? I think we Teacher Pao, no? I think what Murakami-san is saying is that the first 3 years of no assessments, they use it as formative years. Okay, so there
Yeah.
are still like core subjects. Okay, but the core subjects no are not necessarily graded or not. There's no report card. What they have are like qualitative feedback to the students. Okay, so
Yes, yes,
they're
yes,
still
exactly.
learning. Yes. So I think that's how they're doing it. So teacher Mary Ann, okay, the core subjects are still there. It's just that it's not like what how we do it in the Philippines yet. They don't like put it in a report card, grade it, etc. But they do give feedback. Okay, so learning still continues. Okay, in ano in those first 3 years. But again, maybe Teacher Pau, no, and Murakami-san, please do correct me if I'm wrong. Teacher Mary, I think the idea of the first 3 years in the Japanese education is really to form the students and to strengthen the values of the students, not to put them into academic mode in
Right,
kinder
right, right.
time. That's yes, that's how they do it.
Or
Um,
yeah.
Go ahead, Teacher Pao.
Yeah. Or maybe this is not the usual pen and paper test that they have. Maybe an alternative way to assess by which students are progressing in a certain field. No, so just like what Murakami-san has mentioned, there is what we call they still give comments. Therefore, there's that form of assessment where they can give their comments so that the student knows and the teacher also can give feedback how the student is actually progressing in that specific subject. I think that's how I understand it from Murakami-san. Just correct us if I'm wrong. Thank
Yes.
you.
So teachers know really different approach now. Another question, Murakami-san from teacher Eric Julius Lay. Would you consider assistant language teachers? I think this is a very common part of Japanese education. Assistant language teachers in Japan helpful in elevating quality of education in Japan. Why or why not?
Um, yeah, I think so. Thanks to LT teachers, there are quite a lot of activities in foreign language subjects for foreign language that effective for the students. Like so, in order to maximize the this opportunity that LT teachers and Japanese teachers work together, we are thinking of team teaching, quite a lot of ways of team teaching way, and also yeah. So in terms of the education of foreign language, um, ALT uh, assistant language teachers are very helpful to elevate um, uh, students' foreign language skills, like listening and pronunciation and everything.
Okay, thank you, Murakami-san, for that. Okay. There are a lot of questions by the way, Murakami-san. They're so interested into Japanese occasion. Okay. Anyway, we still have a lot of time. Anyway, this one is from teacher Celsius Watson. Okay. Go ahead, teacher Pau.
All right. Hi, I teach in China. China and Japan share confusion elements in learning. What can you suggest in dealing with traditional thinking parents who resist active or interactive learning versus passing tests?
Um, yes, so Confucius elements in learning. What can you say? Yes, so the in Yes. So, right, right. The point is, I think, to let students think actively and also um, participate in the um, class learning actively. So, of course, there are some parents um, who would like to choose the Confucius style, like teacher leading the textbook aloud for the students. But still, the in thinking of current trends, we need to um, be able to um, be persuasive uh, by learning how the ICT technologies or the um, current technologies are effective, and also how the world is changing and how the world is getting unpredictable. So yeah, and also um, yeah, we can also there are do some things that um, by showing them that the results or the data that students are learning actually better in the proactive, interactive, and authentic learning style. Um, so yeah, sorry, can't, I couldn't really. So
Y-
this is the best. So I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but
actually,
Okay.
I do agree with what Murakami-san has mentioned about showing the parents. Actually, it works for any kind of issues parents don't agree with, how the school is actually conducting their lessons, or maybe just show them the data that it works. No, that's why it's very important for all of us to make sure that the data, we collect the data, we use the data, we just don't store the data and just keep it. No, so these are for interpretation. Data should really be used for interpretation so that we can show the parents, ma'am, sir, this is how it works. It worked for your daughter when she was like this, or something like that. So we can actually prove and show to them that it actually works. Thank you for that, Murakami-san.
Yes, no, agree with
thank
that. No,
you.
transparency and involvement is the key. And of course, no, endurance lang teachers, because as we promote more active and interactive learners, in the next 20 or 30 years, our students will become the parents, okay? And they will know that active and interactive learning is the way to go in education, okay? So we'll have those parents now. This one is from teacher Joseph Odelon Hermetanyo. Okay. Um, the question is basically on time management to using technology and maybe personal and family time. Do you have like because Japan is like very tech savvy country, technology oriented country. Do you have like practices that promotes balance between using technology and family time or bonding or social bonding?
Um, yeah, so I actually um, use my watch to yeah, use my watch that I can set some time for, like I use timer, and uh, so this is is something like timer, and this is actually good for our eyes as well, and also when I need to focus on tasks, I I try to get away from distractions like smartphones or TVs, or so as best as I can. So yeah, this is a thing I do.
Yes, thank you so much, Murakami-san. I think we can end with this last question from teacher Ivan Ebora. Although I have personal questions as well, I will ask that later on. Okay. So, what are your thoughts about the Philippine education as compared to Japan's? Okay. Well, the problem is that maybe this will be a hard question for Murakami-san because he might not be as oriented um with Philippine education. But just based, maybe we can rephrase the question, Murakami-san, to if ever you have like suggestions, okay, or things that you think the Philippine education should prioritize based on your experience as a student, as a teacher in Japan, what would be those things that you think the Philippine education should also prioritize?
Well, so yeah. Before answering this question, sorry, I have a question actually, my personal question. So, um, are there any uh, e- um, examinations like uh, the Japanese entrance examinations for universities or high schools? Or so, can I ask this to start, Franco?
Yes. Uh,
Yes.
uh, y-
Yeah, we do have entrance examinations for colleges. Usually we do have that for colleges. For high school, there is, I think, an exit exam which they take usually at the end of grade 6 and grade 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. So in that case, I think the to have this balance between focusing on the preparation for examinations, or like more like academic things, and to have balance this test oriented style of teaching, and other more like cultivation of humanity, or more things like letting students learn um, about things uh, based on their interest, or their motivation. So have this balance, like not focusing just for something like institutional things or academic things, but um, read them more or more like autonomous, or have them feel free for their spontaneous motivation to learn. So this balance, this is the most important thing, I think. Yeah. In all country.
yes, I agree on that one. Focus, I think Teacher Pa, we really have to have a webinar already on the whole child approach. No? Similar to the idea of Murakami-san, no? Paying attention to the person, not only to the intellectual or academics, okay? Will definitely be very important approach for our teachers. Okay, so we will try to get into that. Okay, so Teacher Pao, teachers, okay, please do send our thanks to Murakami-san in the chat so that he would be able to read them. Please make him feel the warmth of the Filipino educators, the Filipino community in general. No? And again, Murakami-san, thank you so much for spending your time and your expertise and your experience in Japanese education, Kim, to the Filipino community. And definitely, there are so many learnings and so many things we would want to also to learn from your Japanese educational system that we'll try to think about and try to also implement in our own Philippine education. But before, of course, we say our goodbye, is we'd like to first present to you our certificate of appreciation for this afternoon's event. Okay? Teacher Pau?
Yes, it's always my pleasure to present this certificate of appreciation to Sir Teru Murakami for sharing his knowledge and expertise in the recently concluded webinar entitled Education in Japan: Trends, Best Practices, and Innovations, awarded today, March 12, 2022, to be signed by Kaagapay administrators, Sir Angelo B. Malyari, Sir Joseph Angelo M. Santos, myself, and Sir Franco Nicolo P. Adun. Again, Murakami-san, thank you so much for gracing us this afternoon. We've learned a
Thank
lot.
you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
In
Yeah.
in the chat right now, our teachers are sending arigato gozaimasu, Murakami-san. Okay. So, Murakami-san, before we say our goodbye, we would like to ask like a short message, okay, for the Filipino community and Filipino teachers as we continue our battle for the pandemic and also transition back to the post-pandemic scenario of in education. Go ahead, Murakami-san.
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me today. For me, this opportunity to share ideas with you, teachers in the Philippines, and is really valuable, more than valuable. So um, I I really hope to learn from this YouTube channel after becoming a English teacher. So, and I also want um, everyone to keep learning. So I myself need to keep learning. So this is the last thing I want to say. So and again, thank you very much, and also for so kindly inviting me to and giving me this chance to talk, and for Jaja-san who invited me to introduce me to Sir Franco. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for asking me quite a lot of questions. Yeah, I will think about them later. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you again, no, Murakami-san, for that. So teachers, let's send our thanks again, appreciation to Murakami-san in the chat. Okay, so thank you, Murakami-san. Goodbye, and we'll see you again here at our channel, Murakami-san.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I
See you
appreciate
again
you,
soon.
Sir Franco, and Teacher Paul. Thank you very much for the kind introduction and kind words. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next speaker, Teacher Pau, will be taking over.
Yes.
Ang ganda talaga no, no.
Ang ganda.
Sobrang yes. Well, I really like how organized no, how organized Murakami-san with his presentation, okay? And I think we get to really have a very good view of the Japanese education. Medyo syempre, nandun na naman yung inggit no, nainggit na naman tayo dun sa innovation, sa mga resources nila. Pero teachers, again, a constant reminder for all of us, no, this series is not so we feel down and we compare no the Philippine education because again we have different contexts, we have different resources, okay? So it's more of like let's empower ourselves, okay, knowing that these things are possible in other countries. And Teacher Pao, no, we have to also understand Japan was not too far no from the Philippines in the last 50 years or 60 years or so, no. Even lalo especially during the Second World War, no, we are like in terms of like wealth and like stand in Asia, we are like almost there, and we have to learn that this is doable. Japan was able to do it. The Philippines could definitely do it. Okay, so that's our hope, no. So again, sa susunod na eleksyon, iboto Sir Franco sa pagka-president. Tuloy-tuloy na tayo sa
Gusto ko yun talaga.
talagang
Actually,
kuha-kampanya tayo, no?
oo,
Oo.
sabi
Oo.
ko nga sa private chat namin, syempre share ko na sa ating mga viewers, no? Hindi lang webinar pinapanganak dito sa webinar, eh, 'di ba? Alam niyo 'yan, kung sumusubaybay kayo sa kaagapay, pati ata
Nako.
yung pagtakbo. Kaya hashtag iboto si Franco, okay? Ipapa-trending natin 'yan in the coming days.
Kumpleto tayo sa color, sa branding, no? Tatakbo na lang talaga. No, just kidding, teachers, no? Without politics, no, we are here. We'll definitely support you all throughout. Pero yung teachers, no, let's keep on hoping. Yun yung idea. We're not like bringing you all of these trends, best practices, and innovations from other countries so that we will feel down about our condition in the Philippines, that we would compare. What we would like you to see is a more on a positive light, no? Possibilities, ano ang pwede nating gawin, ano ang pwede nating dalhin sa mga Filipino learners natin. And again, kayang-kaya natin, no. Let's not lose hope, no, kasi talagang pagdating sa tenacity, sa innovations, creativity, hindi nagpapahuli ang mga Filipino educators, and we're confident with that, no. Kaya nga sabi namin, no, from last discussion, Teacher Pao, we will continue to invest to our teachers, onto our teachers, no. walang lugi sa investment natin sa mga teachers natin. Okay? So teachers, before we have our evaluation, okay, we'd like to remind everyone of our next session next week. Napakaganda ng session at next week, Teacher Pau. We'll have a session on equity of access in education. Okay, so we'll be talking about equitable education. Ano ang equitable education? How do we do this? And how do we promote this? No, once again, we will be joined by Dr. Desiree Alexander from the US. Okay, so she will be sharing. Yes, she will be sharing trends, no, best practices in education, but more focus on equitable access in education. Okay, and of course on Thursday, we'll also be having a Pinoy speaker, but teaching and actually a school leader from a school abroad. Okay, we'll be talking about the global education. So, what is global education? How do we promote diversity in education in the 21st century? So, we will have that next week, Thursday and Saturday, as scheduled. Okay? So,
Yes.
teachers, ito na ang ating evaluation link. Please do evaluate now. Okay? Teacher Pau, naka-order ka na ba? No? While our teachers are looking if it's working, order na, no? Kasi nakakagutom, no? Nagutom ako dun sa
Nung
introduction
tinanong eh.
ni Mura.
Yan ba naman yung
Oo,
favorite ko?
napakasarap pa naman ng I really love Japanese food, no? Sobrang
Yes.
sarap talaga na okay? Saka alam mo,
Sobra.
nakakatawa sa Japanese, marami sa mga Japanese food, mga artisanship food, no? Yung talagang, alam mo yung pinag-isipan, pinaghirapan, no? From the
Totoo.
design, from the taste, actually, sometimes it's not the taste of the food, no? Yung preparation ng food yung nakaka-entice how they're preparing it.
Pag tinignan mo naman siya, sobrang simple lang. Hindi
Oo,
naman
simple
siya yung
lang.
sobrang daming
Yes.
laman, hindi din. So
Yes,
parang
oo.
simple pero class talaga, 'di ba?
Yes. Actually, yun nga,
Nakakagutom.
no?
Oh my
Totoo ka, no? Napakasimple ng food pero pag kinain mo parang like sobrang sarap
God.
niya, oo. Oo. So, definitely next year, well actually naka-line na pala sa'min Korea muna. We wanted to go to Korea first, but Japan is a definite a must-see place again. We'll ask
Yeah.
Murakami-san of best places in Japan to visit.
Yeah.
Next week. And working daw.
Yes,
Ayan,
working
pa-deliver na po ng
ito.
sushi and ramen,
Yan.
Miss Pau. Oo,
Ayun
pa-deliver
na
na raw
nga.
sabi ni Miss Arlene, okay?
Ayan.
Okay, so, Teacher Pau, maraming salamat again. Thank you
Thank you.
for joining and of course, teachers, maraming salamat for always having or joining us, no? Always natutuwa ako dun sa natin kasi syempre, alam ko Saturday kasi Teacher Pau, no? So lagi ko iniisip, sabi ko sana kahit 50 live viewers lang okay na tayo.
Okay na.
50, nakaka-100, umaabot pa tayo ng 200 even if it's a Saturday,
Yes.
2 o'clock in the afternoon, siesta time tayo nagwe-webinar, no?
Correct.
Talagang kaantok-antok ang oras na 'to, pero alam natin mga teachers natin, sobrang solid ng KTS community natin, okay? So maraming
Correct.
salamat ulit and we'll see you on Thursday and Saturday. Ay, by the way, Teacher Pau, bago
Yes.
Thursday and Saturday, huwag nilang kakalimutan ang ating CP Class Point Series
Class
webinar
point.
on Monday, okay? Requirement po yan, teachers, no? Kasi mapapagalitan po ako pag kokonti po ang viewers natin. Kasi yung speaker po dyan, mahigpit, tsaka strict. Oo, nakakatakot. Baka pumawalan ako ng bahay or matulog ako sa labas pag hindi kayo pumunta sa Monday. Teachers, punta kayo please, no? Please.
Oo, nagmamakaawa na si Sir Franco. Please, gusto
Oo,
niya po
nagmamakaawa na
makatrapa
po.
sa bahay. Oo.
Para po
So,
may bahay
please,
pa
punta
ako
kayo.
after sa Monday, no? Yan. Salamat, teachers, no? And see you on Monday, teachers, no? Monday, Thursday, and Saturday po tayo next week. Okay, paalam po. Have a nice
Thank you
weekend,
po.
teachers. Stay
Bye,
negative from
everyone.
COVID-19, but stay positive in life, teachers. Huwag kakalimutan na kayang-kaya natin to. Okay, paalam po.